Hello everyone, this is Josh Perry from King Dinosaur Games, here to talk to you about That Which Sleeps, the upcoming turn-based strategy game in which you play as an awakened evil who has to corrupt and manipulate the world to secure his return. This is our first devlog. We're going to be discussing scenario generation, which is the process by which the world is made ready for you when you start a new game. A lot of people have been asking us, how does the map work? How do you randomize the game? And we wanted to go through this, so we figured it's a good place to start. So let's click play and jump into it. Here you have the scenario generation screen itself. You'll see it's loaded in 2 scenarios for us. The process by which it does this is simply to parse through the scenarios folder and look for any subfolder within manifest.xml, or if you're playing in a foreign language, anything that's manifest-your language code. We wanted to make the game incredibly mod-friendly, and you'll see a lot of that throughout the game. Alright, so the North Burns on the right is our demo scenario, so let's take a look at that. If you mouse over anything, or almost everything, you will get a tooltip. Tooltips are core to our design strategy. Almost everything you see throughout the game has a tooltip for it. The top will always be static, telling you what that is. The bottom will tell you what the value that currently is being represented actually is. So, nations is something we can take a look at and get a lot of information about. Nations separated by government type. Why is that important? It's important because a nation is completely different based on the government type it has. The list of actions the leader can take depends on his government, and also it's easier or harder to manipulate and infiltrate certain government types. I'll give you a quick example, although we're going to be talking about this in depth in the next video. So a monarchy, for example, is ruled by a single king. It is hard to influence a single king, but if you do influence and corrupt him, you can do anything you want with that nation because the king has carte blanche there. A republic, on the other hand, is very easy to infiltrate. It's very easy to get someone on the council, but it's hard to get your votes past the council unless you would have corrupt everyone, which takes a lot of resources. So the blue represents civilized nations. These are the nations that you will generally be playing against. The green nations below them are the fringe nations. Fringe nations are sort of on the edge of society, represent other races, but they're not quite on the evil spectrum. So you can do a lot of terrible things to fringe nations, and the civilized nations just won't react. They simply just shrug and say, oh, well, such is life. Whereas if you attack another civilized nation, they'll register that an Accord is harassing the civilized world. Look at the bottom, you see red. Red is your friends. They don't start as your allies, but they're very easy to ally with. Hordes, clans, and conclaves. There's actually another type as well, not represented in the North Burns. Moving down, you see guilds. Guilds, there are 3 kinds. Guilds themselves, orders, and cabals. If you want more information on this, you can check our IndieDB page, which has a lot of information. But generally, guilds will have guild wars with each other if they're in the same POI. They have very simple agendas. So a merchant guild wants trade. It goes to cities with a lot of trade. Passively gives them a bonus, but then also takes some gold from the city. If you have 2 merchant guilds going to the same spot, guild war. You can see the Black Seas on the left has only 11 nations and 13 guilds. So that's a game that really pivots around the guilds, whereas the North Burns is more around the nations themselves. Start POIs. You start with 1 POI, the Great Seal. It's where you are buried under the earth. Agents. There are 15 available in this scenario. You start with the Prophet, and at game start you can recruit the Rake, the Hermit, and the Peddler. They have no prerequisite. The description is principally thematic here, but it's also there for modders to describe what it is they're trying to accomplish with the game. So let's go ahead, click on the North Burns, and move ahead. This is the most important decision you will make outside of this scenario. This is choosing your old one. We have 4 dapper gentlemen for you: Belial the Deceiver, Sisyphus the Last Hero, Karth the Scarred, and Aslan the Dreaming God. They don't simply have different numbers for the statistics, they have very different playstyles. Let's look at the numbers that you see to the left of their name first. You have a 5 up top for Belial. That means he can use 5 agents at start. That number will increase as the game goes on, but it will generally reflect the starting value. So a person with 5 to start will always have more than a person with 3 to start. The number below is how long it will take for him to wake. Keep in mind this is not a linear increase, but someone who has 10 versus 15 is probably 400% more time for that person to wake. Now, more important than that, we can look at their abilities. So if you mouse over Belial's 2 ability trees, you see Will Over Fate and Dwelling in Darkness. Will over fate is about manipulating chance. So there's a lot of random events in the game, and it's about making sure you know they're coming, and that's his starting ability, Perceive Fate, which you can see at the bottom, but then later being able to change them to make them much, much worse, or you can put them somewhere else. When Belial wakes up, his ultimate Will over Fate ability is simply to spawn horrible events. It's pretty powerful. Dwelling in Darkness. This is part of Belial's role as the intro Old One. Call of Ravens, you mark a single POI, ravens swarm it, and you get Infiltration. Infiltration is key to the game. If you aren't infiltrating a spot, you don't know what's going on there. You don't know what heroes are going through there, what quests are going on, and what the political leaders are doing. Generally, to infiltrate it takes some time, so you need foresight and planning. You want to find a crossroads city and infiltrate that. Call of Ravens lets you be a little more lax in your attention, and then just use that ability. That ability is not replicated anywhere else. That is simply Belial's. Let's go to look at Sisyphus. Sisyphus has a unique ability, his Lament of Mortal Birth. If you choose Sisyphus, the next choice actually allows you to decide how he became an Old One, and that gives him a completely different tree. His other ability, the Price of Victory, focuses on his actual strategy, which is powerful agents. Though he gets less than Belial, his abilities all focus on making those agents very powerful, either in combat or infiltration or magic. The bottom two are interesting because they're strong counterpoints. Karth the Scarred is the primal orc god of war. His first ability tree is War Without End, which starts with the Bloodlust passive. So Bloodlust means there's going to be more casualties in battle. This is very important if you're going to be going on a heavy war strategy, and especially with orcs, which are more like fodder units. A high-quality unit like cavalry can ride down orcs and take no damage, but with this ability, there'll always be some casualties, so a war of attrition becomes very feasible, especially early on with trash units. He also has Call of the Horde, which awakens a tribe. Similar to Call of Summoning Ravens, this lets you mark a spot and have something occur that otherwise would have taken you some time to bring into a being. So with Awaken the Tribes, you can simply start putting down orc markers everywhere, or later on even more powerful ones. With those markers, your agents can recruit minions, you can recruit troops if your troops are going through there. It also makes it more dangerous for heroes to walk around there, and especially to adventure. Karth, you'll see, wakes quick with 6, but he's the weakest of the gods when he wakes up. He's still tough and can take out a champion, but if a few champions showed up and the chosen one, he's definitely going down. So you want an early game strategy with him. Now Aslan is a late game champion. 15 to wake, but if he does wake, his ultimate Dreamhost ability means he merges reality with dream and simply wins the game, which is good for you and terrible for all of humanity. Dream Fog. This is a very tactical advanced ability, and it's key to play as Aslan. Target here loses his most recently acquired clue. I'm not going to talk about clues now because they're very complicated, but if you've read any of our logs, you know that heroes gain them and figure out your identity. So if you use this tactically, you can keep people from figuring out Aslan is waking up. The Night Whispers. This is Aslan's core. Penumbra. You may choose a leader or a field hero and speak to them. In time, you alter their personality. You can click on someone and this stays on them. The more power you have, the more you can have going on at the same time. Every certain period of time, an event will trigger for that person that lets you change something about them. Lower their willpower, make them go a little crazy, make them jealous, things that make the world fall into chaos. It's very fun, but also very hard to win. Alright, let's choose Aslan. There he is, just dabbling in the water. The dreaming god, he who lurks. More flavor text, a quote at the top by Sage Varus of the Third Age. And we go forward. Now, this is all driven from the scenario folder, so it's all easy to mod, in-game editor or otherwise. You get a series of questions. The questions will change the world. This is what we mean by scenario generation. So although there's one map with all these handmade leaders and nations and cultures, they can all change based on the choices you make here, as well as your agents can change and your Old One abilities. So I don't want to go over them all, it would take way too long. Let's just talk about one at a time. So before the fall, this is who's your buddy, really. It says at the bottom, who bathed in your grace. Let's say the Soulless. The Soulless, for instance, gives you powerful minions to recruit at your home spot, the Great Seal. However, at the same time, certain heroes will get a trait called Soulless that make them resist your abilities. So it's a double-edged sword. Taunt of the Idols. If I were to choose the Elder races, for instance, it makes humans hate the elves, because essentially the elves took over as the bosses. But it also adds certain kinds of ruins, and it powers the elves up. You choose the Elder races, you are risking that the elves don't enter the war. If they do, it's devastating. Cataclysm is another example of what can be done. Cataclysm creates a variant map. So when you make a scenario, you have one map to use, but you can create a variant of that. So I can say, if they choose Cataclysm, play on variant. And that island you see right there, actually below Cataclysm, disappears. And there's a few more mountains added. In death. So when you died, how'd you stay alive? Let's look at My Seed Unbound. So that's essentially your demonic children wandering the earth. So it adds a lot of dangerous spots throughout the world, and it makes it much harder for adventurers, and as you get stronger, you can call your children back to you, and your agents can recruit them. They're very powerful minions. Disturbed by Light. This is when a great empire was forming, so how did you stop them? Visions of Grandeur is great. So essentially this is like you tricking the kings into, instead of doing things good, they all build palaces. It creates a ton of ruins and powerful artifacts that are hidden underneath. Again, it's a gambit because you need to get those before the heroes get them, because you'll both be playing for the same ruins and the same items. I Return. So this is the last question for this scenario, and it gives you a direct bonus based on your choice. Gather My Strength, for instance. Gathering your Strength is the boring choice, but it actually starts you with 2 Dark Power instead of 1, which is very, very useful. Alright, so then you go on to, do you want to play the tutorial, do you want to begin the game, or play on Hardcore? Hardcore is the only way to go. Disable saves. So, that's all for now. We are going to continue clicking on Begin Game the next time that we have a devlog, and you will see the map, gameplay, and we're going to go through the entire GUI and all the statistics. Alright, thank you for watching, and if you'd like to, please go follow us at www.kingdinosaurgames, and you will see our mailing list there.